we're going to walk through a sample monitoring plan. There are different versions of monitoring plans. In fact, a lot of project management software include their own version of a monitoring plan. But this sample just gives you some high-level views of the types of things that you can include as you develop a monitoring plan. So in this particular example, we're walking through, again, the employee engagement survey. And the key component here to the upper left, you highlight the basic summary of how the project is doing from an objective standpoint, the schedule, budget, any issues or risks that have been identified, and then the overall scope. And you do that with color coding to make it real easy for readers to know where things are at. So that's a red, yellow, green categorization, green being things are on target, yellow, things are at risk potentially, and then red being, there's a serious issue that needs to be addressed in the project. So typically, these will stay somewhat the same as you're working through the project, but may change as things develop when you're moving through the project. To the upper right, you outline the project objectives and then some secondary measures. These tend to stay the same throughout the project. You pull them from your scope of work documents to outline what the core objectives are, and then move on from there. Moving to the middle of the document, in the overall progress, key accomplishments, and the critical next steps phase, this is what's going to change most likely for each report. I typically like to highlight the left, your progress. So what's been done since your last meeting? And really it's a tool for your teammates to be encouraged by the work that they're doing and see that things are actually occurring. For critical next steps, this helps your team members focus on, hey, what do I need to do next? What are the core things that I should be working on? So that is that section. To the bottom left here, you highlight some upcoming deliverables and milestones. So what's going to happen next? What should I be anticipating as a team member or as an end user with the core dates? So in this particular scenario, there's an upcoming meeting that's going to occur. There's the draft report, the presentation that are all in the works. And if those things are on target, you indicate that they're steady. If there's something that isn't quite where you want it to be and has the potential to get pushed back, then you mark it as slipping with a downward arrow. And then as things move along, if things end up improving that were slipping, you can change that to an improving status. So those are the sections related to the core timeframes. Moving to the bottom right, these boxes for decisions, issues for leadership action, key risks, and then the key new assumptions. These are boxes that you may not use at every meeting. Really, they're only used when you have something that you want to bubble up to leadership for some change or to address. So in this particular scenario, the the team was unable to get the list of employees for the survey, which obviously if you don't have the list of names, you can't send the survey out. So that's something that you might document in this area where you would use this then as a tool as you go back to the client to say, hey, we haven't received the list, and that could potentially push back our go live date. And then really use that as a starting point to have a conversation about what needs to occur. Similarly, in the key risks dependency coordination needs and mitigation plan, this delves a little bit more down into risks that are identified. So in this particular situation, the lack of the client list could potentially be considered a risk. So you can also identify what you're doing to address that risk. So you're being proactive. Jane, one of the team members, is reaching out to the ED, and then if she doesn't hear back, it will be brought up at that second client meeting. So that's the strategy to address that particular need. Moving to the last box, really in this box you're highlighting anything that's changed. So as you go throughout the project, you're going to uncover new information and new input. And so I like to include in this section things that have changed that you've been made aware of that could potentially impact what you're going to do. So in this particular scenario, the team had met with 2 new individuals at the Park District who would review the documents. So that's something that hadn't been originally anticipated and would need to change as a result. They might have been planning just to communicate with certain stakeholders, but now needed to include these 2 individuals in their communication. If you don't have any major risks or any key news assumptions, it's fine to put not applicable in those sections. You don't need to include something for every meeting. It's just really a section where you have an opportunity to include that if you need it.